Good afternoon, everyone, or I should say good evening, rather. This is Lloyd Strayhorn with Live with Lloyd. Good evening on this Monday. This month is almost over. The same time next month, it'll be a whole nother month, which will be April. I have a very exciting guest. You see here my beautiful guest. She's new. It's her first time. Her name is Krystle Boateng, and she is going to tell us what she does. She's most unusual, which is all my guests. And I need to thank Kalia Washington, sister Kalia Washington, my favorite astrologer. We've been knowing each other over a couple of about 3 or 4 decades. That's all, not long. But the fact that it was because of her that I've had the honor and the pleasure. She talked about Krystle, and we're gonna, because she has, well, all my guests are very special in their own way, but let me do this first and clear this. Okay, I'll get me here. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Got a couple of surprises, and one of them, though, is we're going to do the forecast for today. Where the joy of numerology is the joy of learning and enlightenment. Please share, please like, share, and subscribe. Okay, that's the deal. It's Monday, March 27th of 2023. The sun is in Aries, the moon is in Gemini. It's a one universal month, a 5 universal week, and it is a one universal day, which means if you needed to start something about ending, this would be the day. And should you be an Aries, Scorpio, Aquarius, or Leo, or born on the 1st, the 9th, the 10th, the 18th, the 19th, or see, I made a typo error. How did I do that? Or the 28th of any month. One thing about my show, you can tell it's organic. You can tell I ain't got no high client, staff and all that stuff. Boy, anyway, so enough of that. But anyway, let me introduce you to this beautiful lady. Hey, lady. How you doing, Krystle?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to your audience and share my story and chat with you.
It's interesting. The one thing I asked about Kalia, and you said you met Kalia as a result of knowing me. And then I asked, well, how'd you hear about me? Can you explain how you said you heard about me?
Sure. So I've heard your name in my household from when I was like a teenager. My stepfather raved about numerology, and specifically your book as being the source of his knowledge about numerology and how numbers impact your life and how they basically are variables in every aspect of your life. And the more you know about them is the more you can kind of make informed decisions. And so I always knew your name, and then I decided to start watching your live programs on YouTube. And through that, I was introduced to Kalia, and then full circle moment, here we are. Give me 1 second. Sorry.
Yes.
Echo. Stop. I apologize. I have my bedtime alarm from my kids just went off. Live, right?
No, but that's why I said my show is very organic. My lights are going out, my computer's going out. So hey, but yet my audience is still consistent. So I need to, I always thank them very much for putting up with some of the things I do. And it's not deliberate, it just happens. But anyway, as you were saying,
life is happening.
Yeah.
So yeah, full circle moment, here we are, and I'm speaking with you, and I'm so glad to be on and talking about, what I'm up to.
Yes. And what are you up to, by the way?
A few things actually, but I'll kind of start off by talking about my children's books. So I started a company called Inside Ability Books.
Let me tell the logo too while we're at it, because I was going to ask, how did that come into being?
Sure.
Accessible children's literature.
Yes. So a little bit about me. I'm actually legally blind, and that's something that most people can't tell right away. It's not as apparent. But for me, my vision loss manifests as central vision loss.
What does that mean?
Sure. So in terms of vision, there's different ways that you can look at it. There's your central vision, and then there's also your peripheral vision.
Got it.
So your central vision is what you use for detail, distance vision, facial recognition, reading. For instance, in a practical setting like a classroom, seeing the board, the words on the board, watching a movie, the subtitles, things like that, the faces on the characters on the TV. All of those finite intricacies of the world, the detail is what you see through your central vision. Your peripheral vision is when you walk in a room and maybe you're looking at something, but you're still getting information about everything else in the room through the vision that you have on the sides,
Right.
the peripheral vision.
Mm-hmm.
And so the term legally blind, also low vision, just speaks to someone who has a decrease in vision that cannot be corrected by glasses or contacts.
What about medical procedures?
Everyone's situation is very different,
Right.
but generally, if it's not correctable by a procedure or glasses or contacts, you're considered low vision or legally blind. Low vision is when you have a visual acuity of 20/70 or worse, and legally blind is when you have a visual acuity of 20/200 or worse. And just to break down what those acuities mean, perfect human vision is 20/20. So that means any given thing, a human being can see it from 20 feet away.
Mm-hmm.
Once you start to have a reduction in vision, that second number starts to change. So when you have 20/70 vision, it means that what a fully sighted person can see at 70 feet away, the person with the reduced vision still has to be 20 feet away. So for them, they would have to be closer to the item to be able to see it. And so once you hit that mark, you're considered low vision. Legally blind is at the point of 20/200. So what a fully sighted person sees at 200 feet, someone who's legally blind would still have to be at that 20 feet to see it. And why there's that distinction is because per the government, once you reach that 20/200, you're considered to have a disability. And then once you have a disability, then you are eligible for certain resources, etc. But I kind of use the terms interchangeably, legally blind and low vision, because ultimately it speaks to the fact that I have reduced vision that cannot be corrected by glasses.
Question. Are you
Yeah.
therefore able or not able to drive?
I am not able to drive. Trust me, you would not want me on the road. I am not able to drive, but I do take full advantage of Lyft, Uber, paratransit.
Of course.
And so I get around very independently.
Right. Well, you got to, listen, the way Tesla's working on it, or Elon
Okay.
Musk, you got to have it where you
I'm waiting on that, where I can be like, hey guys, I just got my first car.
You got to do it sit in the front like I'm driving,
Exactly.
Now,
And so, as
go
I
ahead.
mentioned real quick, I have two small children. I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. And so I was told very early on by my pediatrician that reading to baby was very important. And so that kind of brings me to creating the accessible print children's books, because the books on the market were too small for me to be able to see. So I had to create books large enough for me to see. So that, to answer your first question, is how I came to starting Inside Ability Books, accessible children's literature.
Yeah, let's take another look at the logo again. Who designed the logo for you? I like how you put the microscope with the E.
Yes. Yes.
You came up with the concept?
I came up with the concept and I hired a freelance artist to put it together for me, because I do not have that skill set. Mm-hmm. But what it is basically I've taken the DIS of disability, I placed a book over it, and I opened it away, because the idea is that there's so much more to the story, right? People usually stop at disability and they see it as, okay, well, you have a barrier, right? But if you look beyond just that someone has a disability and you look to find inclusion, you look to see what accessibility can be created, how you can innovate to create access for folks with these barriers, mm-hmm. then ultimately, how disabled does that person feel when inclusion is being provided and accessibility is being provided? For the most part, if I picked up a random children's book, I would feel very disabled because I'm unable to read those things to my children. But when I pick up my books and I'm cuddled up with them and I'm reading, access has been granted, inclusion has been granted. And so it kind of opens the playing field for families like my own. And I think that's just a good way to look at disability. So that's kind of where I came up with the name. And then the magnifying glass speaks to, having a need for magnification or having a visual impairment of some kind.
I like the symbol of it, which is what made me ask in the first place.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think that's interesting. But listen, nowadays, don't they have books in large print? I
Well,
was somewhere at the doctor's office and they had a Reader's Digest and it said large print. But I think is it the print that you're normally speaking about in your case?
Well, there is actually a thriving large print market. However, it's usually targeted towards the aging population, the mature population, professionals. For instance, let me see if I can pull this up without messing up my whole setup. I have a large print and reverse contrast keyboard. So that's something that's provided for folks who are in, the work setting and they're using a computer. There's large print telephones, there's large print cell phones, there's large print crossword puzzles, there's large print adult novels. I believe those font sizes are like a 28 to 30. But when it comes to the children's book market, there just was a huge gap in accommodation there because once again, there's I think about 3 million Americans living with vision loss that cannot be corrected by glasses. And a large portion of that are young families, parents, young kids. And there just isn't too much that's being marketed specifically to that group. So when, I'm part of the low vision community, I've been legally blind since I was 19 years old. I know where to get my large print, things. I know my resources. But when I couldn't find any large print children's books, I didn't initially say, okay, well, let me start a company, but I knew that there could be more that's offered, right? I reached out to my local library. They said that they can emboss Braille on storybooks. They can also provide audio format. And those things are great. They definitely are of a strong use to people who live in the vision, who experience vision loss. However, there is a large spectrum of vision loss, and the accommodations appropriate for each person's degree of vision should be varied, right? And I just thought that those two options were a little limiting. I'm not a Braille user at this time. Audio format would work, but since I still do benefit from large print, I felt like that's something that I could create for myself initially. And then when I went through the full scope that it takes to actually get this book in your hand, I realized this is something I needed to do and put on the market because I couldn't be the only person, with this need and looking for this the same way I was looking for it.
Wow, that's interesting. Well, let me ask you this. You said this happened at 19. So
yes.
Can we assume that before 19, you had, shall we say, normal vision, for lack of a better way of putting it?
Yes, 20/20 vision my whole life up until I was 19. I developed an autoimmune disorder. They called it basically idiopathic, which means no identifiable cause or cure. And it was just the body having an inflammatory reaction localized in my eyes. And so due to complications of that condition, it led to me losing central vision in both of my eyes.
Okay, Now, since you like to read to your young sons, which you have 2 of them, what made you then become an author yourself of children's books?
Well, to be honest, my creativity has always been there. I've always found that my creative writing is kind of my safe place. Even when I was losing vision at the age of 19, I started losing vision at 19, and by 21, I was legally blind. And so when you experience something like that, that's so abrupt and no one can tell you why, they can't tell you, how much vision you're going to lose, why it happened, if it'll happen again, it puts you in a very unstable position. And I was in college, I was 19. That's already kind of a difficult time of life. You're getting ready to leave. And so I was faced with 2 options. I could, allow sort of the despair and the darkness to, enrapture me and pull me in and, fall into that. But then I just kept saying to myself, I'm so young and I have so much life ahead of me. And I had all these goals and aspirations. I don't know how many of them, at that point I was saying, I don't know how many of them I could see through, but I knew that something had to be next, right? Okay, this happened. So how do we process this? How do we heal from this? And how do we move on from this? Because we still got a lot of life to live. And so part of that healing process for me was getting into my creative writing. It started off with stories. So I wrote my first novel, an adult fiction novel. Never published it, but I got lost in the stories that I could control because I couldn't control, my regular life. I could control
Mhm.
this world that I was coming up with.
Mhm.
And then that transitioned to poetry. And in my poetry, I was able to explore my mind. I was able to explore my heart. And it was actually the sort of the precursor to meditation for me, because I would pose questions and then I would have to sit in my mind and sit in my emotions to come up with a written picture of how I was feeling, how I wanted to feel, how, I wanted to transition away from negativity and into positivity. And I
Mhm.
sort of just started to, hold space for a more positive outcome. I was mentally transcending my physical reality and calling forth a positive outcome, one that I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like, but I knew it
Mhm.
had to get better than this. And so that kind of was my background in writing. And I actually eventually put those poetries onto canvases, which is another brand that I
Really
have.
interesting.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay.
So with that as a background, when I kind of hit that barrier of not having books to read to my kids, I was like, okay, this is not the worst thing that's ever happened to you. you know, like, you're a creative person. If there are no books on the shelves, you can make a book. So part of going through, I think, adversity at a young age is sort of the illusion of barriers becomes very apparent to you. It becomes very clear that it's mind over matter, most things. And
Mhm.
so very quickly I was like, okay, well, I'll just make a book for myself. And then from there it quickly went to, okay, I'll just put a book on the market. There were tons of questions of how on earth I was going to do this, but once I decided this is what I was going to do, I just knew the rest would just come along. I would just figure it out, and I
Mhm.
did. And I'm
Mhm.
really proud of the work. I've gotten a lot of tearful response, gratitude from people who are like, you know something like this that's made for me, that accommodates me, like, there's just nothing like this on the market. um it has been honestly affirming to me, because something can get put on your heart and you think, well, does anyone really want this, or
Mhm.
But once
Mhm.
I put it out there, I have learned that it's helping even more people than I even realized. There's people on the neurodiversity spectrum that are saying that this is like so much easier and more of a comfortable read for them when they're reading to their children, because it's bold, large text. I'm being told by glasses wearers, like, yeah, my grandson brings the book. I'm like, come on, let's just watch YouTube. My eyes are too tired because these fonts, they're so small. So
Mhm.
someone who doesn't even have a visual impairment is saying that they are now able to more actively and comfortably participate in story time, which is huge. It is the foundation of early literacy and language development, etc.
Mhm.
Um, Children with visual impairments, they initially weren't my approach, because I figured we'd be reading to children who, couldn't even read. But
Mhm.
certainly they need to be able to see the words on the page, to see them repetitively, and to be able to then learn the words on the page, hear the language, etc. And so I've gotten positive feedback from um, pre-K teachers, from nonprofit programs that work with families to support and educate them on how important story time is to early literacy. They're saying, wow, we need to tell everyone about this book, because it just starts to lower barriers universally across the board to allow
Mhm.
even more readers to want to, get involved and read to children. And that wasn't even my original concept. Again, my original concept was like how me, Krystle, legally blind mom, can get involved. And now I've kind of created an avenue for so many more people to feel comfortable to engage in story time. So it's been really amazing.
Well, question: what made you decide, therefore, to write? Although you read books to your boys, but to then come and write books of your own. And by the way,
Well,
let's say your first book. Can we talk about your first book a second?
yes.
And I want this. They're looking at it on the screen now. It looks small, okay, from this visual. Can you show what the book looks like? Hold on. Let me
Yes.
get full screen on you, young lady, so they can
Okay.
see. All right, there we go.
So it is an 11-inch by 11-inch hardcover book. So it is quite large. And what I've done, because the aim of my company is to provide accessible print options. So the first book was actually released in 2 formats. So this one is the this is the original version, and I can show you how large the print is. It's about font size 140. I generally didn't look to get caught up in numbers. I just tried to optimize text space, but I often do get the question of how large the print is. So I just went ahead and measured it. And it's about a font 140. So that's quite large. So that, anyone who can read print most likely can read that. And I would like to say that although my books are to be inclusive of visually impaired people, not every visually impaired person can read large print. So I always say that because I don't want to discount anyone else's experience who's a Braille user or does use audio formats. But for those of us on the spectrum that do benefit from large print, I'm providing accessible options there. So the second format is reverse contrast. So if you see the difference here is that it's a black background on the text with white letters.
So the words will pop out more.
Exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth.
Okay, I got you.
And so
that's interesting.
It's indicated right here on the front that it's the reverse contrast edition. And you're ahead of me, so it really does pop out more on the page.
What made you decide to do that? I think that is so cool to do it like that.
Well,
anticipating.
Yes, for folks in the vision loss community, reverse contrast is actually something that is common. Like, for instance, when I showed you my keyboard, it's a reverse contrast. It's a black background, white letters. And so I knew that for many people in vision loss who are in the vision loss community, that's just a softer read. So if my aim is to be accessible and to allow, even more people to be included in story time, I had to not just think about size, but contrast is also a concern for people who are experiencing vision loss and even glasses wearers. Because just now I put it up there and you don't have a visual impairment, but you automatically said, oh, it pops out more. It's an easier read.
Yeah.
And so, I liked, my aim is to prioritize that accessibility with those 2 options.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Oh, hold on. And what's even more amazing, you also put this one out too. This is your latest one.
Yes, that is my latest book. It's What's So Special About Books. And this also comes in 2 versions. This is the large print one that you have up now. And there's also a large print with reverse contrast in the same way that I did the first book.
And is that about the same size as your first book?
That is exactly the same size. And I can show you that one as well. 11-inch by 11-inch hardcover. There you go.
Wow, that's nice.
And this font is somewhere around 100. So I can show you there. It's nice.
Okay. And you wrote the narratives yourself?
Yes. Again, feeling like very much that my gift and my purpose is to be a creative and words as my medium. It became like a very natural transition for me to say, okay, well, I'll make the book. And there's tons of books. They just keep flowing. I have a long pipeline of books to come out. But, I'm self-published. And so there's sort of the realities of the logistics of growing a business and a brand. And, I'm taking my time because I want to do it right. And also, I'm spread between, the marketing and the promotions and all of those things. So this one will be available next month. I'm really happy to say. The first one came out last summer. So that was a huge milestone for me. And then now this one is coming out next month. And I have another one, which I don't have the cover ready right now. But that one is coming out in May.
Wow. Well, we'll let people know about it and whatnot. So here's the thing too. When you're doing these, now I noticed there was another name to the right of your book. Was that the illustrator?
Yes. And so I do contract illustrators to bring forth my vision. And it's usually about a 7 to 8 month process. because it is a conversation. It's most of them have never done a book like this before. And
Hmm.
so they have to get kind of educated on what I'm looking for. And then, they educate me on what will work and what won't work feasibly.
Hmm.
Um, and then it's an exchange, right? So I'm sharing with them the story. There's some mock-ups that I've created. And, it's just a conversation. And it generally will take quite a few months. So that's why this time, instead of working on one book, like I did when I launched the company, I was working on two books at the same time. So that's why they're coming out back to back.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, I think that's good. But when you do these things now, have you been invited to lecture or other than being on a show such as this, so people can know how to get to those things?
Yes, so I have done like story times at kindergartens and preschools.
Mm.
I also participated in Read Across America, which was actually earlier this month, March 2nd. I've definitely done a lot of live vendor events, just getting out and meeting people. I've partnered with different nonprofits to be able to speak to their community bases. So I'm doing, I'm grassroots.
Well,
And
that's
I'm
right.
pounding the pavement and I'm getting out there. And it's been really positive. It's been really positive, the feedback, and I'm enjoying it. And, it's definitely once again, me being able to use this as a creative outlet for myself. So it's a win-win.
Well, good. Now, what I want to do is show people your banner so people know how to get in touch with you. Let's see something. Here we go.
Yes.
Here we go, Krystle Boateng.
Yeah.
She's an author, a wonderful mother, a wonderful wife. I didn't put that in there because, but I just put author. I just left that part in
Right.
there. I figure, and she has two websites. Tell us about your websites. One is iabilitybooks.com and
Yes.
ktcdecor.com. Tell us about.
So the Inside Ability Books brand's website is iabilitybooks.com. That's where all of my books will be made available. I am also selling on walmart.com, but the easiest is just to go to my website and you can see any information about updated books that are coming out, new releases, and also be able to buy any of the books I have available right now. The other website is for my brand, Keys to Thy Castle Decor Expressions. And that's actually where I take some of the private coaching that I've given myself through my poetry over my lifetime, and I'm actually publishing them onto artful canvases. And the aim is to just share inspiration. I always tell people on my social media the inspiration is free, but if you'd like, the art piece for your home, you can go to my website and you can purchase that. So I actually have an example of one right here.
Hold on, let me put
Here
this on full here, right there.
we go. I don't know if I can get this fully on camera.
Wow, that's nice.
But this is my piece called Walk Your Walk. And although these are not large print and not high contrast, what I have done to make them
Can you
accessible.
read? Can you read one of those? Some of the
Sure, sure,
poetry lines in
absolutely.
there, please.
Now, I have to hold it a bit close.
It's all right. It's all right. No harm done.
Follow the compass within. Do not look to the crowd for direction. Discard the finely crafted, ready to appease veneer. Reveal the beautiful soul inside. Push through the fear. Each 24 hours is a gift. Do not waste another day living to affirm someone else's way. There will be progress as well as setback. Both are teachers, both realize the path. You are uniquely qualified to discover your advent. Trust and believe in your own discernment. Turn away from escape and step into purpose. Apt choices rouse deep, imitation begets numbness. Only you know when your soul feels free. Reject the confinements in your reality. The key to manifesting your vision is granting yourself full permission. So what if they can't see it? You were born to be it. Take a deep breath in and step out. on not knowing the how. Lean into your gifts, lean into your passions, and give thanks for what is to be now.
Wow, that's nice. That sounds like you on your way to writing. Whoops. That sounds like you well on your way to writing publish. Have you published any of your poetry yet?
Outside of the canvas medium, not just yet. But
Uh-huh. Now, what made you use that medium to express your poetry, which is different versus on a pen or a tablet or something? What made you use canvas? Have you painted before in the past?
I haven't. To be honest, I've done poetry roundabout since my early 20s when I was experiencing vision loss.
Hmm.
And initially, I had dabbled with putting it on T-shirts, but I wasn't really committed to it. It wasn't something that I gave my all to. I was multitasking. I had a lot of things happening. As you can imagine, I was actively losing vision. I was trying to figure out what career path I would take. And so it didn't get all of my energy. Later on in my 30s, when I kind of revisited the idea of saying, all these beautiful things poured out of me, they shouldn't just be sitting on my computer. I should put them out to the world. Out, the best way to get them to an audience, I thought about putting it on artistic decor, because if you're in your home, right, and you have something beautiful, that alone just sort of raises your vibration energy, right? Your
Hmm.
vibrational energy.
Hmm.
And then if there's an inspirational message on it that speaks to you, every time you pass it, every time you go into your bedroom, your bathroom, your living room, your home office, and you see it, it will give you that jolt of energy to, charge forward with the right intention for whatever it is you're trying to manifest in your life.
Hmm.
When I thought about putting it in a book and it just sort of being closed and really not picked up after maybe the first time, I thought if it's on display in someone's home, then it's going to be constantly, activating the people in that household. And so I jumped out on a limb. It was just something that, was put in my heart. And I hadn't seen anything else like it. And I figured, why not?
And the one thing I also gather from our conversations in the past before coming on the show is you have a very wonderful and supportive husband.
Yes. Yes, because while I'm, coming up with concepts and I'm going to pop-ups and I'm going to speaking engagements and I'm doing podcasts, the baby's got to get fed.
It's true. Somebody has to do it,
And,
right?
I don't drive. And so, I am so grateful to him that, he schleps me here, he schleps me there. And, entrepreneurship is not, the roses and rainbows
We
all the
know. We know. Yeah.
and certainly those moments where I'm like, what am I doing? Maybe this should have just stayed in my head and in my heart. This did not need to come out. And he's like, are you kidding me? Absolutely not. You are, you have a gift and this is amazing. And I'm going to support you to, push forward. And so every moment where I have a feeling like, eek, I can always count on him. He's definitely my rock. He
I
definitely.
like your husband, and I never met the man, but I like that. I like that. And why not support? Why not support the woman in your life? Why
Yeah.
not? We want you
Yeah.
to support
Yeah.
us.
He's
So,
definitely like this part of the program.
and so, sister girl has to swing both ways. So, kudos to your husband for doing that and understanding the importance and encouraging you to go on, because I know when we're stepping out on faith to do something sight
Yeah.
unseen, pardon the pun,
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
any
All that.
kind of
Walk by faith, not
parachutes.
by sight.
Yeah, yeah. And to be supportive in your, so I think that's very important, because there seems to be this whole thing about us not wanting to be with each other. And I don't know where that's coming from, but I know this, it is definitely not to our advantage.
Right.
That's for sure.
Right.
Because they found that a lot of antisocial things that are committed are because there is no father in the home to give children a direction. So y'all don't look at me. I'm talking about this is what the stats say. And
God.
I do know personally some youngsters that are
Right.
in wrong situations because they didn't have a male guidance
Right.
somewhere in the
And it's
home.
all about a village, right? It's all about a village. Even my husband talks very, very highly of the uncles that he had in his life, you know. So
Hmm.
he
Hmm.
had like a lot of strong male figures, and so just having a good village also is really important.
And especially with the fact that you got two sons.
Yeah, yeah, two boys.
So that is very, very important. I think that's very important. So now, what are some of your goals moving ahead? How many other books you want to put? You said you got a lot of books
Oh,
in the
I've got tons of books. I have at least about 10 written and like 20 more concepts. Um,
Really
Yes.
interesting.
And so my goal is actually to put out 4 this year. So the 2 that are coming next month and the month after, I've already started talking with illustrators about getting the next 2 out. And so for the first book, what I did was a Kickstarter funding campaign to be able to launch the printing.
Hmm.
Um, and the reason why I do crowdfunding to print the books is because there are print-on-demand services that, you know, allow a pretty low bar for authors to get in there and get started at a low cost, because as long as you can get your PDF created and you can get it up on one of these marketplace sites, when someone wants your book, then it's printed and sent, right? So you're not holding inventory.
Hmm.
Because my
Hmm.
books are such a unique dimension in terms of size as well as it being hardcover, those print on demand outlets are not available to me. And so I do have to order in bulk whenever I release a book, because in order to get a decent enough retail price, right? No one wants to pay $60 for a children's book. I have to hold quite a large amount of inventory, which is why, although I have 10 books written, I haven't produced all
Yeah,
10
you
because
produced
that would
them
be,
based upon what you're saying, and they're
yeah,
all
that's
produced under
exactly
your company.
what I'm right now. Sorry, you were
And
saying?
I know, and I was saying they're all produced under your banner
Yes,
inside. Yes.
yes, 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 yes. So my goal is to get the 4 out this year and just to continue with that same momentum every year to bring out 4 new books. And with the canvases, I have a lot of those because,
Oh, can people purchase some of your canvases if that
yes.
makes sense?
So
Ah,
if you go to
uh-huh.
kttcdecor.com, that's
There
where
it is
you'll,
at the bottom of the screen.
yep, that's where you'll see my inspirational poetry on canvases. And I have these sort of mini affirmation canvases, and those go like hotcakes. So I'm always having to kind of re up on those. It's like little mini inspiration. So here's one. It's like
I was
a
going to
six
say,
by,
do you have one? Oh, yeah, I was looking at that too. I am
yeah,
blessed. I am blessing. I am
yeah.
a blessing.
It says I am blessed, and then there's like the ampersand, I think, sign,
Yes.
and I am a blessing, right? So just a reminder to yourself just to be
You know
great.
what makes that nice? It's simple but elegant.
Right, right, right. And you know, it can be mounted, right? Or
Hmm.
it could stand tabletop the way I have it here. And so something like that on your desk or on your dresser, it just reminds you to be grateful for the things that are going right in your life, grateful for all the things that you know, are the blessings in your life, right? And then also to remember that you are a blessing, that you are loved, that you are important, that your contribution matters, that if you were gone tomorrow, there would be a gaping hole in so many people's lives and in, you know, the world, because we're all born with gifts. And sometimes if we don't see those, you know, roads that are paved that, you know, say, okay, come bring those gifts, we can often think that maybe those gifts have no value, but sometimes it's for you to pave that road. And it starts with having a certain level of esteem. It starts with having an attachment to your purpose and a drive. And then before you know it, different synchronicities start to happen, and you're walking down the road and you have no idea how you got to where you got. But it's just believing in yourself, having faith in yourself, having faith in sort of a greater power at work. And it all starts in your mind. It's all about your mindset. It's like, what are you feeding yourself spiritually,
Hmm.
mentally, that's fueling you in a direction, right? Because whatever you feed yourself in terms of your thoughts, in terms of what you give your attention to, that is what's going to manifest mostly in your life. So those little mini canvases are just to like a little sign of positivity, you know, in your bathroom, in your, your desk,
Yeah, and
wherever.
we all need, and the way things are going now, I think we all need a heavy dose of positivity. To be very honest with you,
Right. Because
a very
that's,
heavy dose.
there's a whole industry around negativity, right? Because it sells.
Um,
It's that thing that gets people's attention. It's like, so every now and then when you can, you want to feed yourself the positive stuff and create a balance for yourself.
yeah, because I understand in the communications world of news media, the
Hmm.
word is if it bleeds, it leads. So I mean, that's like really.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's a whole desensitizing because you see so much of this stuff that, after a while you start to lose sight of what's truly ridiculous. And you know what I
Oh, let
mean?
me tell you what I heard today that's truly ridiculous, that a woman, a 28-year-old woman, went into a private school or something like that and shot things that were totally for men. She killed 3 children and 3 adults. And of course, she was killed too. And I'm saying, like, what's up with that? And
Yeah,
these are the things that make the press, not the things that you're doing or the things to raise people's awareness. It seems like,
right,
I guess that seems to be boring, but yet it is most effective in helping people. But
right.
I mean, so like, and I'm saying, oh wow, women are trying to get into this game too of doing mass murders. That's like
Yeah.
there is something really wrong in the water that people are drinking.
There's definitely a lot of healing that has to happen, right? There's a lot of hurt, and hurt people. There's no excuses for any of it,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it starts with self-love. It starts with just seeing your role in the greater world around you. One thing I have to keep reminding myself is, when I started the Canvas company or the books, um, you have that natural insecurity about, like, well, who really cares about this? I don't know. Is this just important to me? But
Mhm,
once you put
mhm.
it out there, you realize that, that gift that maybe you weren't valuing is like the answer to someone else's prayer. So, like, showing up as your full self in this world is actually what allows for blessings to flow, because people are looking for a divine intervention, but oftentimes that divine intervention comes through people actually following their spirit, following their path, following their purpose, and showing up as that vessel for the blessing to come into the physical space. um,
Mhm.
and so, when you're so detached from your spirit, you're so detached from your connection to humanity, a lot of really ugly things can happen.
Well, that seems as if that is the goal from whoever it is, to be detached from any reality of humanity toward one another. It
Hmm.
helps one, and yet we all need each other at some point in time. No one makes it on this
Absolutely.
planet by themselves. But I do
Absolutely.
have a question because I keep looking at you, of course, and
Okay.
I'm saying that have you when you tell people
Hmm.
of your visual challenges, to me, you look normal. I'm sure to all the viewers, you look
Right.
normal. How do you explain it, or what do you say to them? Are they shocked or surprised?
Sure. So, because vision loss is a spectrum, the sort of, I guess, misunderstanding from mainstream is that if you have vision loss, you look a certain way. You have to have something visually that's happening.
Yeah,
Um,
or a cane or
you
something
have
like
to have
that.
a cane,
Yeah.
a guide
Mhm.
dog, or maybe dark
Mhm.
glasses. But
Mhm. Mhm.
again, because there is sort of that spectrum of vision loss and a myriad of ways or conditions or reasons why a person is experiencing vision loss, we're not all living the same experience. So for someone like me, the issue that I have is in the back of my eye. You're never going to see, what's going on with my vision because it's in the retinal space. It's all the way at the back. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
you might be able to tell if I'm not giving like direct eye contact. But for the most part, you really can't tell. Sometimes in flash photography, this eye will flash a little differently than the other eye because of the things
Interesting.
I've got going on.
Mhm. Mhm.
But for the most part, you won't be able to tell. There is something called an ID cane, which looks like a white cane used for mobility, but it's really just for someone like myself to hold, that lets people know that you have something visually going on
And
with you.
what is that called again? You just mentioned?
Sure, it's called an ID cane. So basically just identifies you as someone who has a visual impairment if there's nothing else apparent about you that will indicate that. And so I often get a lot of hostility from people if
Are
they
you
see me.
serious?
Yeah.
What? What?
If they see me looking closely at something, there's kind of an understanding with people, or I don't know, that if they think you're doing something stupid, then they're well within their rights to shame you or be disrespectful to you. So I'll get a lot of, girl, where's your glasses? Go get your glasses. Oh, you think you're too cute for glasses? And it's like,
Wow. I
you
hadn't
don't
even thought of
know.
that. Well, when you do explain, do they then either say, "Oh, excuse me, I didn't know," or apologize? Because again, just looking at you under normal conditions, we would assume you have a normal 20/20 vision, not
Right.
knowing that you have your own visual challenges.
So I've kind
Let's say once you explain it to them.
Right. If the scenario lends to a teaching moment, then I will. But for the most part, I just kind of ignore it.
Yeah, when you say teaching moment, because you really don't have time to sit down and explain everything, not with two young boys, they're toddlers practically for the most
Right.
part.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly. 1 and 3. Yeah.
yeah.
So, in certain settings where I need assistance, I'll usually say something like, the initial will be, "Oh, can I have assistance with this visual thing?" They will then kind of either help me, or they'll say, or they'll point, or they'll kind of think that I'm just being lazy, that I want them to do the thing for me. And then I
Mhm,
have to say, well, I forgot my glasses. I don't wear glasses. I forgot my glasses. Can you help me with this or that? Right.
mhm,
Usually
mhm,
it clicks for them. Oh, okay. She can't see because she doesn't have her glasses. Right.
mhm.
If I say, oh, well, I'm visually impaired, then they're like, I don't know. Well, you don't look visually impaired. You walked up in here just fine, like, so, and then it becomes, you got to share your whole life story. So I usually just try to manage with my own workarounds and not
Mhm, mhm.
ask too much of others. And when I do, I just come up with a quick deflection, like, I forgot my glasses, something like that.
Yeah.
Um, but I have seen from other visually impaired people on social media who are influencers that they have a really hard go of it, especially when people can't tell that they have a visual impairment in the employment settings and different things like that. People will put unrealistic expectations on them and
Really? That's
all kinds of
interesting.
things. Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm
I
pretty
think
well
you need to
connected.
learn how to be nicer to me. That's what that sounds
Right,
like.
right. And I always say if it's not on TV, it doesn't exist. And so for the most part, when you see a person who's visually impaired on TV, they will go with the version of vision loss that looks like a guide dog or a white
Yeah,
cane ability, and the
yeah.
person is really only seeing lights and shadows
Or
and
they got their hand on somebody's shoulder crossing the
right,
street or something of
dark
that nature.
glasses, and that is an experience. That is, a genuine human experience that deserves to be on a larger platform. However, it's one of quite a few in the low vision community, and those other experiences are not generally put up for mainstream to see. And so when they come across someone like me, I seem like the unicorn, but again, there's over 3 million Americans living with vision loss that cannot be corrected by glasses. And what I learned, having worked in the nonprofit sector for about 12 to 15 years, working specifically in low vision services, is that there are actually more people on the spectrum that have a degree of usable vision than there are on the end of the spectrum where they're not getting a lot of information about their surroundings visually, or they don't have a lot of usable vision. That is actually a smaller percentage of the entire community of people living with vision loss. And so the fact that, in terms of representation in
Mhm,
mainstream,
mhm,
not really showcased at all that someone could be, legally blind. In fact, oftentimes the term legally blind is used like as a joke or some type of punchline, when it's a legitimate human experience that millions of people are living with,
mhm.
not just in America, but globally. I mean, one of my goals is to see if I can get my books in other countries, because I haven't seen, large print to the degree that I make it anywhere
Mhm.
at
And
all.
I'm sure that other people around this planet also may have visual challenges too, similar to yours.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, it's interesting. When I got out of school, one of the first companies I worked with was for the Better Business Bureau to show you how people can be cruel, even businesses.
Mm,
And you know, in New York, Better Business Bureau, there was a organization raising money for the blind.
mm.
Okay, when they checked, you know what they were raising money for?
Oh,
Venetian blinds.
don't tell me.
Venetian blinds. I
Oh,
swear to you, only in New York City.
wow.
Venetian blinds. So it's like, don't people have anything else better
Wow.
to do? You know?
Wow.
Yeah. So when you said about the teasing, that brought triggered that back. That wow, and they got away with it for a while until somebody inspected it, but it wasn't the visually blind;
Right.
it was of Venetian blinds. It's like, really? Okay, okay.
That's outrageous.
So anyway, let me. I want to make a couple of announcements, and
Sure.
then I want to bring you back so
Okay.
you get in the last word, and we're going to review your book and everything like that too. All righty.
Nice.
So for everybody, this is Let me tell you. Hold on. Let me go to the banners. Nope. Let me go here. There's a couple of things coming on. I have a guest coming on this Wednesday. She's called the Tea Lady. Her specialty is tea. And you know, so I mean, they got all kinds of teas, like all kinds of coffee, but hers
Mhm.
kind of like got a magical flavor to it. But before we do, though, let me show this. This is her Krystle Boateng's uh, banner, inside Ability Books. What year did you? How long has this been out? Your company?
Actually, it all started. I launched the book company in summer of last year, and the canvas company was at the end of 2020.
Okay, good.
So all, you know, relatively new.
Okay, and this is her book. She showed you the size. It's a very large size with a very not the typical 8 by 11, 14 by whatever. But hold on, show the book again so people can see it
Sure.
again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm dropping stuff. Okay.
That's all right. That's what I'm saying when it's organic TV. It's official.
There we go.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Quite large.
Yes.
Just so folks know, although I write in a way to be inclusive of the visually impaired community or just people who prefer large print, all of my stories are generally relatable to the masses. This one is a cute storybook that basically highlights gratitude, aspiration, imagination, the importance of routine, all wonderful things we want for the little ones right before bedtime. And so I started with a storybook because it is that in your house experience with parent and baby or caregiver and baby, being able to start those early literacy activities, because they always say that the education starts first at home before they even go to daycare or they go to pre-K, etc.
Mm,
Reading to baby for like 10 to 12 minutes, I think, something like that, helps to start to develop that early literacy and language development. I was actually even recently told that they're moving it up from reading to newborns to reading in utero. So pregnant moms reading to babies. Like, this is
So
being,
in other words, even before they come out the womb, they're prepping them.
exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. So some people have asked, like, well, what age range is your books? And I'll always say, 0 to early reader, because if they are unable to read, then you can read to them and they don't understand what you're reading anyway. It's just the point of reading to baby. And as they learn to read, they don't need necessarily very complex subject matters. They just need to be able to identify the words and the letters on the page and the phonics and sounding it out and all those
Hmm.
things. So
Hmm.
anywhere between 0 and early reader are, the kids would benefit from these books.
I guess that's why they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, right?
Right. Right.
And so this is also her latest book. And listen, when those books are, you got four in the oven, so to speak,
Right.
and whichever ones you got, would you would you be willing to come back on in the fall so we can show
Oh,
others? Because
absolutely.
that's when kids go back to school from the summer. I am
Absolutely.
sure
Absolutely.
there's some maybe visually challenged youngsters as well as adults who want to read and probably don't know that there are people who offer services like yourself to
Right.
provide these things for their
Yeah.
children.
Oftentimes when people see my book, it like informs them that they needed it. They didn't even know they needed it until they saw it. They're like, oh wow, this is big and huge. How much is this? Let me get this. Because
Yeah.
they had just been suffering through, the small print books, because that's all that's available.
Yeah, that is true. But anyway, I knew you want to let people know that there are going to be some other things going on. This Wednesday, I'm going to have my guest. And she's going to be talking about tea, but I do want to let you know that my newsletter will be out. The April newsletter will be out toward probably by next Monday, because I think the first is on Saturday. So by Monday, you should be getting it in your mailbox. Also, one of the things I want to tell you, Krystle, is that a couple of things happened that brought this project on that I'm about to introduce right now. And I had a show on Clubhouse, but before my um, Clubhouse experience, there was a couple of my viewers or listeners or customers, call it what you will, who had challenges visually.
Hmm.
And I've been wanting to do for years an audiobook of my bestseller that your uncle said was the Bible, Numbers in You. Well, I'm glad to say that as of today, I'm officially launching my Numbers in You audiobook. There it is right
Amazing.
there. Yep.
Amazing. I
And
know that for one, my mom is definitely going to buy a copy.
and all they got to do is there is a discount that's being offered. There's a 15% discount, and the discount coupon is $823. So think of August 26th. That's all you got to do. 826 $, and you will be entitled to the 15% discount on the book. And also, for those that want to kind of hear it before they buy it, just click on preview right there, and you'll hear about 4 or 5 minutes of me talking the book. And by the way, I actually taped the entire book. All
Hmm.
right. So
Very
it's
nice.
no paid actor's voice or paid narrator's voice. The entire book, because some of it has been edited, because I had a section that covered about 10 years that's no longer here. So that no longer applies. But in the meantime, though, other than that, every single word coming from that book is coming from out the horse's mouth, as they say. So you will be the first to get it. This is the first introduction to the viewers. I'm going to be promoting it again, but please take advantage of the discount. The discount will be ending on Friday, the 31st of March. So
Ah,
this is when. So when you go there, and it's on my website, lloyd-strayhorn.com, and it is sitting right next to my podcast, because I have a podcast too. And eventually, Krystle, you will be featured on my podcast as well. All
very,
righty.
very nice.
So
Thank you.
so that's going to be it. And so everybody, I want to thank you. So again, for me, this is my pride and joy, and it helps for those. And for years, people have been asking me about visuals. Like my sister, for example, she can read, but if it ain't an audiobook, why should we pick it up and turn the pages? Okay.
Mm.
So this is perfect for her. And then you got some people that even if is not visually challenged, the people who would still, for the most part, like to maybe in a car or something like that, just sit back and
Absolutely,
right.
absolutely. That is definitely the direction that adult genre books are going. Like you said,
Hmm.
reading it in the car, reading it in the house while you're cleaning, like
Yeah.
that, yeah,
And so I'll
multitasking.
be following you around your home. So
Mhm.
anyway, let's go to lloyd-strayhorn.com to take advantage of the 15% discount to get the audiobook, take advantage to listen to the podcast, and take advantage at the same time, also to sign up for the free monthly newsletter, which will be soon. And I got
Yes.
to say this, that in August, in the summer, there's going to be a special event in New Orleans with where there we are with Aquarius Maximus, Nina Diamond, uh, Jazz Aphrodite, and of course those two guys, uh, myself and Brother King Simon. This is going to be a very eventful event, and then later on, before the event itself in August, we'll be inviting all of them on to talk about exactly what is going to be going. So again, do that again. Please take advantage for those who want to get the book audio. Please do that. And it's 15% discount. Go to lloyd-strayhorn.com, and the code is $226. Okay. And so again, the podcast. But listen, also again, please support her. Now, when they get your books, they get your books from your website, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
let me put that up and do this again so we can make sure we got it. No excuses. And also, you already know she is a mother of two toddlers. One is one is three. Okay, they just got here. All right, they ain't been here that long. And so what happens is, I'm sure that please support her. The fact that she's got to even go to a fundraiser to get the publishing of the book. Why don't we make our contribution to her too and show that kind of love and send
Thank
the
you.
cash app to her cash app address, and that's I Ability Books. I like
Yes.
the I. That's like a double entendre, like the letter I, but
Yes.
all the I's too. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Okay, that
Exactly.
lady know what she's doing. So again, Krystle Boateng, author, beautiful mother, wonderful wife. God
Thank
bless your husband.
thank
Site is iabilitybooks.com and kttcdecor.com. And the contact is inside abilitybooks at gmail.com. That's where you go to order your books at, right?
Yes, yes. And
Yeah.
also, please follow my social media. I'm on Instagram under both brands.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
on the inside dash ability dash books.
inside underscore ability underscore books is the IG, the Instagram for the book company. And Keys to Thy Castle, all one word, is the Instagram for the canvas company.
Good, thank you. Let me tell you this. This has been a wonderful experience, and it tells you that sometimes people take things for granted. But I would guess, based upon my special guest today, hopefully that you have a better understanding of some of the challenges. And you know what? I had no idea that people could really, really got nerve to want to be mean because of vision challenges. You know, I mean, the same people that probably wouldn't like to be teased themselves.
Yeah,
I don't get this.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think people need to learn how to be nicer. I think we need to have a class at schools, starting in elementary school, called manners. Manners
Yes.
still work, okay? Other than how mean you can be, and you can tell
Well,
we're
it's
in
definitely character building. I would say that I let a lot of things roll off, my shoulder. And I give a lot of grace because I just assume that, there's just not a lot of exposure. And so if I'm the first person you meet, then I guess you'll learn today, you know?
Yeah, but still, even if so, you're the first person meeting, they realize that there's still no excuse for stepping out of character.
Absolutely.
They would not
Absolutely.
like that themselves,
Nope.
you know. And that's why my mom told me, you want for others what you want for yourself. So if you don't want nobody, you know what, you got to do that. Simple. No education was required. No money
It's true.
spent.
It is true.
Honey, have a blessed day. Hug
Thank
those
you.
boys, okay? And hug your husband for being the
I will.
supporting person he is. And this should be a very good lesson for all women out there, that there's this notion they don't need a man. I have no idea where that's coming from, but I don't think that's how God really designed things. But that's my opinion. What do I know? I just been around for a minute. Anyway, darling, you have a blessed day.
Have
And
a
everybody, y'all take good care. I'm going to talk to you all on Wednesday. And as you see, very nice experience. You learn a lot from this. And I got to thank Krystle for really enlightening us and telling us exactly what's going on. But in the meantime, I'll see you Wednesday. Bye.